Hello, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome to this video for beginners on how to build a basic trampler in the game Sand. Now, this video is aimed at the complete beginner. If you have some experience building already, this is not a video about designs and about strategies for building and what works best. I'm planning to and hoping to release another video in future where we go into the pros and cons of different designs. That's something I'm quite excited to do, actually. But this one is for the complete beginner, simply focusing on how to build in the hangar and how to put together your very first trampler. Okay, so what we need to do once we're in the game is head over to Blueprints. Now, the Blueprints area is where you can save all of your designs, essentially, and the game gives you some starting designs. I've still got a few here from previous playtests, which is why they're currently red. If I select those, you can see they've got a tarpaulin over them, and that's something that you probably won't see to begin with. You'll probably have one of these. I think it's 3 designs that you start out with originally, and these blueprints essentially where you can save your designs, and these designs are saved across different characters in the game. They essentially persist and stay with you. You don't lose these designs. So if I save these here, I'm under a certain character. What I can do is if I go and change my character, I can select a different one, and if I'm playing as this character, I have different inventory, different items, etc., but my blueprints will remain the same, so they persist with you. If you want to edit one, you can hit the edit button, and if you want to start and create a new one from scratch, which is what I'll show you now, we can go over and hit create blueprint. So to begin with, we start with nothing here in the hangar other than this floor space, which shows the forward direction on it, and this little symbol in the middle, which is our exact center of gravity or center mass. That's something we should keep an eye on as we build. We can move around with the WASD keys. We can zoom in and out, etc. And Q and E are your rotation controls. Don't forget, along the bottom, you've also got your hotkeys, which tell you, excuse me, they tell you some of your shortcuts. Handy to keep an eye on. Z is undo, Y is redo, and another one that I often need regularly is the X key to delete items, and we'll see that in a minute. Don't worry, I'll go through it slowly. So to begin with, we can see that here on the right, we've got some warnings. We've got control compartment missing, we've got entrance area missing, and we've got some utility compartments missing warnings. Now we're going to have to sort that out shortly. We need to build until all of these warnings are gone, essentially. Otherwise, we won't be able to save and use our trampler. It'll be an invalid design. The other panel here is the trampler name, which the game is currently offering you standard names. At least at time of recording, you can't name your trampler something custom. I'm hoping that changes in future. And then the big items to really keep a close eye on while you're building are maneuverability, energy efficiency, and weight. As you start to add modules, compartments, bits and pieces to your trampler, you'll see the weight increasing and maneuverability decreasing and your energy efficiency changing depending on what combination you have of energy consuming modules and energy producing modules like the reactor. You can also see how many crew your trampler design currently supports, how many cannon decks you have. Now, this is not showing you how many cannons you actually have installed on your design. It's showing you essentially how many artillery decks, cannon positions, firing positions, weapon positions you have available. So you might not necessarily want to install a cannon. You might install a shotgun, but this is just a generic item here showing you how many weapons platforms you can have, how many cargo compartments you currently have. The more cargo storage you have, the more loot you can store, essentially, as you go into different voyages. But of course, these are quite heavy, so watch your weights as you build with these, and then the number of engines available on the trampler. The building cost, again, keep an eye on this, because as this increases, you're going to need all of these parts, and the more complex a design you have, the more grinding you're going to have to do, and the more expensive it will be if you lose your trampler in a voyage or in storm dive mode. It can be pretty expensive and quite painful if you lose something that you've spent ages grinding for and a long time building, and somebody else manages to steal your trampler or destroy it. You're going to have a building cost to replace it, essentially. We can go up and down the layers as we get higher and lower in terms of our build. And then we've got a couple of buttons to edit the connections and toggle the upper layers. I'll show you these in a minute. So to start with, the very first thing we need to do is we need to head over to the compartments tab here. And you can see then the compartments tab open. We've got some options. We've got chassis. These are our standard ones at the moment. We've got essential items. We have to have most of these. They're not all essential because you can see, for example, I've got a choice of reactors here. I don't need to install all 3. I only need 1, but I need at least 1 reactor. It's an essential item. We've got utility options, and I'll run through some of these shortly. We've got our combat options. These are our gun decks, the gun decks I was talking about. And decks and frames, got some simple options here at the moment. And bear in mind, in fact, I'll just finish with balconies, the last one, some stairs and some balconies. Now, as I was saying, bear in mind that you'll only see what you have unlocked here at the moment. So all of the items you can see here in my editor are because I've done some grinding and I've gone through the tech tree and I've purchased and unlocked some of these items, like the frame stairs, for example. They may not be there for you if you haven't unlocked those in the tech tree yet. So, of course, the more grinding you do, the further you develop your tech tree, the more options you have, and the more interesting designs and more complex designs you can create for your trampler. And, of course, the more survivable designs you can create. So, at the end of the day, research is going to give you the edge generally on your voyages and expeditions, and make you more survivable, and essentially allow you to build a more powerful trampler that can destroy other tramplers and give you the very best chance of getting the loot and extracting. So the first thing we need to place is the chassis. Now I'll start with a very, very simple design just to show you the basic mechanics of building. So once you press the small chassis, it appears here on the hangar floor, and we can rotate around it like so. And bear in mind, there is one forward direction. That's your forward drive, and the trampler will be reversing this way, crabbing right, crabbing left. So that's something to bear in mind. And if we keep an eye on our center of gravity underneath the trampler, we can see it's still dead center because the center mass is nicely in the middle. We then start to add our compartments. So it's a good idea to think about your essentials first. Let's look at adding a flybridge. Now, the flybridge faces forward by default. This is one of the funny modules, at least I found at the time of recording in the editor. Most of the modules rotate perfectly by pressing spacebar, but this one doesn't. I can't rotate the flybridge with the spacebar. So I have to bear in mind that it needs to face the forward direction. So if I want to put that in the middle of the design here, I can simply place it like so, and it's flashing red. It doesn't necessarily mean that position is bad or anything is wrong at the moment. It's just telling me that this module is not connected to the other essential modules. It's not reachable. For example, I can't get onto the trampler yet to reach this, so it's showing me red at the moment, but we can safely ignore that until we position some of our other compartments. So the next thing we need to think about is how we're actually going to get onto our trampler. So we need an entrance area. So the entrance area is one that you can rotate by pressing the spacebar, depending on which side you want to place it. And let's just position it at the back for now. In fact, no, let's position it at the side. So if we want to place that there, we can do that like so. Once you've placed an item, you can click to hold and move it around to reposition it. And you can temporarily place an item any way you like, such as in midair, while you build if you know you're going to come back and move it like so. Now bear in mind, this item is completely open. So if I wanted to steal this trampler, I could come up the ladder here, run inside, and there's nothing to stop me. There's no locked door. So essentially, this would be quite a vulnerable design. So one thing you might want to think about is placing another item, such as I happen to have the corridor unlocked here. This is something you'll have to grind for, but I'll just show you for now. If I place a corridor, you can now see that it's still showing as open, but the corridor module actually has different door options available on it, or wall connections, it's sometimes referred to as. So I can go to press G here or hit the edit wall connection button, and I can see that I have some options available to me. So all 4 walls can be edited on this module. So this one is currently showing as open. If I click on it, I can close it completely, which of course will invalidate my design because now there's no way to get through from the entrance area. Or I can add a locked door like so. Now this means enemy players, if they try to board my trampler, they have to destroy this door with, something like C4 or an RPG or with another trampler before they can actually get onto my deck and start to board my ship. I also need to get through this corridor, of course, and onto my trampler. So I can now add a door here, which allows me through pass, and that's looking good for now. Let's get out of that view and think about what we need next. Well, the next thing we definitely need is something to power our trampler. So we can go over to the essentials and choose one of our available reactors. I've done a little bit of grinding and unlocked a couple more, but let's start with a stock standard basic motor deck reactor. And when placing this, we have a choice. We can rotate it, we can position it anywhere we like. We can position it here on the side or at the back here, for example. It doesn't really matter at this point. If you're looking for a nice symmetrical design, you might want to choose a different frame, but I'm going to just position this reactor here for now, just to show you how it works. And you can see that the corridor's automatically added a door now. It's automatically added that so that I can come through and get onto this part of the deck and access it. If you don't want that, you can just go back into the editor like so and close it off. But I'm just going to leave it for now. And in fact, let me come out of that view. So we're getting there. We're still keeping an eye on our notifications missing at captain's compartment, and we've still got some reachability and utility warnings. So let's add a captain's compartment next. Now, I'm just going to build a solo trampler here. So all I actually need is a captain's compartment, which gives me a bed, which is your respawn position for your crew member. If you're solo, you are the captain, and that's your respawn. The captain's compartment can be placed. Where shall I put that one? Let's put that one. Let's put that one. Let's put it at the back of our ship, like so. The captain's compartment is really important because, as I say, that's your respawn area, but it also houses the secondary control column, if you like, the secondary controls for your entire trampler. Your primary controls are the steering deck, but if somebody manages to board your trampler, blow through the captain compartment door and enter this captain's compartment, if it's destroyed, you can't respawn, and if you're killed, that's it. Your expedition is over. But if it's not destroyed and somebody accesses the secondary controls here inside the captain's quarters, they can take control of your trampler, which means it becomes their trampler. The captain's bed becomes their bed and their respawn point, which means if you die, you have no respawn left, and they essentially can now control your trampler and take it to the extract and steal it. That's right, they can actually steal your trampler while you're on an expedition. So that's something that you need to bear in mind. Captain's quarters need to be protected at all costs. So there's currently no way to get into the captain's quarters. So let's add some deck so that we can at least come through here. We could add a door here, I believe, or maybe not. No, we can't. The door on the captain's has to be at the front. So we only have an option now available to add decking. So we can add some flat decking, some standard decking like so, and position that down. And then we can hover over that, press C to make a copy and place the copy. And now look what's happened. We've got a door and suddenly 2 of our warnings are gone because we can access our ship. Our ship is powered. We have a captain's accommodation. It's reachable. We can get from the stairs all the way up to the captain's, all the way to the steering, all the way to the reactor. And the only thing we're missing now is our utility compartments. And that's really because the trampler needs some storage by default. Now, there is actually some storage already available. It's worth mentioning that here in the captain's quarters, you do actually have this cupboard. It's actually referred to as a refrigerator because if you open this cupboard here in the captain's quarters, there are 4 shelves on it. 2 of the top shelves will have boxes in them, and you need to store your food on an expedition inside of a refrigerator in order to give you respawns. The number of quick respawns you have available will depend on how much food you have in your refrigerator. But there are other shelves, and you can actually store other items here in the refrigerator. That's worth noting, but by default, you actually need to add some more. So I'll come out of that view, head over to compartments, and over to utility. And you can see here, we have a couple of options available for cargo decks. That's where your storage shelves are. In fact, I've got 3 options here. There's a deck frame that I've unlocked as well. So we can select one of these and we can position that like so. And the final warning is now gone because I have somewhere to store my loot while on a voyage or on an expedition. And you can see here that what it's done is it's actually opened up the wall by placing this. It's opened up the wall of the corridor, which I might not want, so I can go back in and just simply edit that like so. And that's it. If I want to, I can go and take this trampler into an expedition. But of course, I might well have a problem defending myself if I run into enemy tramplers. So the next thing you probably want to think about, not a requirement, but definitely a valuable addition, is a turret deck. So you have different designs, the corner design, the front-facing design. There's a framed option here and a slightly larger deck. These are some other items that I've personally unlocked. But let's just start with the basic design, and we can rotate that around. We can position it anywhere we like, but let's put that one here. And now at least I have a forward-facing gun. Now, this is a gun frame, as I say. With weapons in the game, your main deck guns are something that you have to take with you into your voyages or storm dive mode. You have to load they're essentially weapons crates. You have to load a weapons crate onto your ship. So for example, and at time of recording, the stock weapons available will be either a 70mm shotgun, which is a powerful shotgun for close range, an 80mm naval cannon, which is excellent at long range and hits really hard, but with the limited damage area or blast radius, and a 40mm auto cannon, which is a rather rapid firing design that can deal an awful lot of damage at mid and up to close ranges. But those weapons come in a crate. So when you load those onto your ship and load into a voyage, the crate will appear on your storage deck. And you then need to go and take that crate up to the turret and install the weapon on the turret. So this turret can take any one of the available weapons. I can choose what to put on it in the game itself, and I can change what I put on my turret in every single voyage, which gives you a lot of flexibility to adapt and play around with different configurations. Another thing to bear in mind when building, and I should have mentioned this earlier really, is the reactor itself. Now, it has 6,500 hit points. It's one of the most difficult components to destroy, but it is definitely vulnerable. You can destroy these fairly easily, as I'm sure you've probably seen in some of my other videos where it's happened to me. I've been destroyed in literally seconds, or I've managed to, or my crew has managed to destroy another trampler in seconds by focusing on their reactor. Enemy tramplers are going to focus on this while you're in combat. And as I say, I'm not going to go into strategies for build and different designs in this video. It's just something worth noting that you want to protect your reactor as best you can, make it difficult for the enemy to shoot at this bit of kit, because if this is destroyed, your entire trampler is destroyed, your expedition is over. And by the way, if you kill if you kill a reactor, whether it's yours or an enemy one, a black box will spawn right here next to the reactor itself once it's destroyed, and that's very valuable. So somebody can steal your black box, or you could steal somebody else's, load it onto your storage shelves and extract with it, and that's a nice valuable item to have, and it helps you grind out the tech tree. Now let's take a quick look at some upper layers. So we can build upwards. We're not limited to a one deck design, of course. We can look at the different compartments available to us, and we can do things like, if we wanted to, we could place a deck on top of the captain's quarters. So we can just go up a level using this UI here on the top left, or of course we can just press the hotkey R and we go up a level, and we can place the deck on top of the captain's quarters like so. And if we wanted to, we could add a hatch here. So we could go to and now we have a deck on top of the captain's quarters. Let's say we wanted to increase that deck area. We could do something like put a frame. We could take a basic supporting frame here, and we could, drop down and position that here. But it won't let me position that right now because I've currently already got a flat deck underneath. So say I wanted to position this frame deck here, I would have to temporarily position it, remove this deck. I could press X and remove it, and then move this deck over like so. And now we have a frame that we can place another piece of deck on. So if we copy that one, go back up and place it, we now get a second layer of deck. And by default, this frame deck gives us the option to have a ladder, which means we automatically get a hatch on top, and we can now climb up this ladder to access this deck area. So say we wanted to do something like that, and that's now given us the option or the space to add a rear facing gun. So we could change our minds and say, actually, let's get rid of this bit of deck here, and let's copy this artillery deck like so, rotate it around, position it, and we now have a rear-facing gun frame where we can install a rear-facing gun for a bit of protection while we hightail and run away. And while I'm here, it's worth noting that I've added some weight over on the right, I've added some weight over on the left here, and some at the rear, and that's had an effect on my center of gravity. It's moved the center of gravity from the dead center slightly rearward and slightly left. It's still well within acceptable limits, but of course, your center of gravity affects the stability of your trampler, so that's something to keep an eye on. Were you to continue adding compartments like so, and if I lower this back down, note that there's nothing underneath me here, but I can actually attach compartments hanging off the side of other compartments because they're welded here at the seam, for example. If I was to continue adding these like so, all of the weight is starting to shift over toward the left now, giving me a pretty interesting design, but quite unstable. And you can only go until you reach the stability limits. And once you get there, you're going to have a real problem, and your design is going to become unstable and unbuildable. So that's something to keep a close eye on as well. And as you get the more advanced units, the weight gets considerably higher, and you'll see that your center of gravity is actually shifting a lot more than you might expect. So we'll get rid of these corridors that we don't want now. And the last thing we'll take a look at is if we wanted to upgrade from being a one-person solo trampler to having the ability to support a crew and going on expeditions or voyages with more than just yourself, well, you'd have to add a crew compartment. There are a number of options available to you to do that. If we head over to compartments and essentials, we've got this crew cabin single. So if we were to add this cabin, we would be a two-person ship, or we could add this two-people double crew cabin, which would allow us to become a three-person ship. So let's say we wanted to do that. We could modify our design by taking this compartment, temporarily positioning it somewhere. We could also move our reactor, and we could position a crew compartment. Oh, I think the reactor is still in the way. Let's have a look. Yes, so we could position our double crew compartment like so. And bear in mind, some modules, like the crew compartment here, have a fan on the back. This actually makes them, this makes them slightly larger in terms of their actual footprint, which means that I wouldn't be able to actually build behind this unit because of the fan. Same as the captain's quarters, because of this large, this bulbous extending window here, this convex window, it means that I won't be able to build something directly behind this module either as well. So just bear that in mind when building. But now we have this crew compartment. You can see that my design has gone from one crew to three. I can now run trios in the game. And the more of these you add, there are no limits. I could keep going up should I want to, and add more. I'm now a five-person ship. Now the maximum in the game, at least at time of recording, is 6. So I could add another single module somewhere and run a 6-person ship. But there is actually no limit, so I could keep adding these and theoretically support more crew. And I guess that would just mean that you have more respawns available as these compartments get destroyed. So you've got more survivability. But keep an eye on the weight. Look how heavy we are now. We've got a maximum frame weight of 20,000 kilos, and we're already here at 110,000, which is actually not bad. Being around about halfway on the weight puts you somewhere around about halfway on maneuverability. As the weight increases, the maneuverability drops, and that essentially just makes it slower for you to maneuver, slower to turn, slower to move forward, slower to reverse. The heavier you are, the slower you are, and that's going to change your tactics considerably in the game. So let's get rid of this second crew compartment here, and let's position our reactor up top to get rid of all of our warnings, and we're now back to having a valid design. Although this reactor is now exposed from every single direction. Wherever an enemy trampler comes from, they are going to have a clear line of sight into shooting this reactor. So you're really going to have to do some work to run away or win your fights, essentially. But now that we've modified our design a little bit, it's always a good idea to check the wall connections are where we want them to be, the doors are where we want them to be, the hatches are where we want them to be. If we wanted to add a hatch here, for example, we could do so, although we'd have to add another deck on top in order to be able to come up this ladder and access this deck without going through the door. But that might be something we want to do, for example. And what about internally? Well, we can always go down a level and just check how we can access everything. So we can come through here, we can go into this door and access the crew compartment, and this door to the captain's quarters. So that works for us. If we wanted to leave a gigantic open hole here at the rear of the ship, we could do so. If we wanted, and that's the toggle upper layers button, for example, which allows us to get rid of those upper layers while we're looking at our design. It can come in handy while you're building. But yes, as I was saying, if we rotate all the way around, we've now got some nice ventilation, some fresh air for our crew. But of course, if you fall out, you're in big trouble. So keep an eye on those wall connections at all times while building. Oh, didn't mean to open that again. So let's get rid of that view. And I think that's it for now. That's the basics of design. I don't think there's an upper height limit. If we wanted to take a frame deck, for example, copy that, copy it again, moving up, copy it again. This is where we start to see some crazy designs out there. People like to do this. They like to go vertical, and they can go nice and high. There must be a theoretical limit. I can't really be bothered to keep going up and find out what it is, but you can go fairly high. And even once you're up high, you can actually do something like, take one of these frames. Let's lower that. In fact, it's hard to see where I am now. Where am I? Let's zoom in a bit. Let's rotate around and let's see. Oh, okay, there. So we could add something like that, and then we could add a top. Is that a frame? No, that's a top deck I've selected. If we go, oh, I can't actually go any higher. So I've actually found the theoretical limit. I can't position a deck on top of this frame. Interesting. So I would have to position the deck off to the side, get rid of this frame, lower this one down, like so, and then move my deck over, like so, copy it, paste it. I don't know why I've kept that ladder, that's a bit odd. Can I edit that? Yes, I can edit that to get rid of that. And I can build decks out to the side, out to the rear, etc., and do any kind of design I wanted to. One thing to bear in mind is the game won't let you build on top of the smokestack for the reactor, or if you're using it, there's this other utility compartment here, which is the armaments workbench to allow you to craft while you're on the go on your trampler. These actually have a small, what would you call it? A small engine, I suppose, in them, and the enclosed armaments workshop also has one. You can see the small chimney stack. Well, it's very similar to the reactor in that the game won't really let you build on top of these, directly above them. So if I wanted to demonstrate that, for example, I could, potentially copy this frame, come out like so, and try to attach that. And the game is saying, no, I can't position that here because it's above the smokestack. So bear that one in mind as well. But I think we've got a beautiful design here, ready to do some battle. And that's it for now, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this short introduction to building for beginners in the game. I honestly can't wait to see what comes next in terms of the different modules and compartments. I mean, I'm already kind of loving the tech tree and what's available. My crew and I have made many different designs. We really enjoy experimenting with different designs and having fun. Some of them have been absolutely terrible. Some of them have been brilliant. Others have just been downright hilarious and good fun to play with. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the building process in the game, what you'd like to see next. One thing that I would love to see next, and game devs, if you ever do watch this video, then thanks for making such a cool game. But please give us an option to test drive our tramplers in the build menu. It would be so cool to just have the ability to test drive them, to take them out in a small empty piece of a small empty part of planet Sophie, just with a bit of sand and some hills where we could try them out, test out the maneuverability, run around them and explore them before we take them into combat. That would be so cool. But I'd like to hear your thoughts on what you guys would like to see, how you find the build process. Drop them in the comments below. And if you've got any thoughts for designs, tactics, tips and tricks, please add them to the comments. Let's get a discussion going. I'm looking forward to hearing from you all. That's it for now, guys. Hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Have fun out there. Bye-bye.